What's up, guys? Hybrid Mongoose here, and welcome to another video. In today's video, we are going to talk about, do you need a CRT TV if you are a retro gamer? Let's get right into it. When I first got back into retro gaming, I didn't necessarily think I needed a CRT TV. I had them growing up, obviously, but I didn't think, do I really need this? When I first started getting back into the hobby of retro gaming, I started to use the cheaper, HD converter. The first thing I did was try to modernize the system in a way, without modding, to actually get it to play on an HD TV. And the first thing I did was I had a Sega Genesis, and I bought a Sega Genesis to HDMI converter. Now, the picture quality was great. It looked awesome, and everything was all hunky-dory. I thought, man, this thing is the coolest thing. I have no problems with it. I'll buy another one for the Super Nintendo. So I bought one for the Super Nintendo, and I got, my NES RGB modded, started using the same multi-out on that, and that's when the other shoe dropped, and I realized, oh man, even though the picture looks great, this is not necessarily a good experience, because there's this thing called input lag. And you don't really notice it if you're playing a casual game, but if you're playing something like Punch-Out on NES and you're getting into the way harder fights, I'm not even talking about fighting Tyson, I'm just in general getting to like Bald Bull and Soda Popinski and all that stuff, you could definitely tell the input lag would kill you by itself. So I started to look deeper into that, and I was like, oh man, that's so disappointing that the picture quality looks so good, but then now the input lag is literally getting me killed while I'm trying to play Punch-Out. And further research into this, a lot of those generic devices that do convert the retro console to HDMI have an issue with input lag, and it's not the same all the time. These things have been greatly tested, and the input lag could actually change. So you could make the argument, well, maybe you could just get used to the input lag or whatever and enjoy it on your modern TV. No, that's where the big huge problem comes in, where if the input lag keeps changing, how are you supposed to get used to something like that? So that led me down the rabbit hole of going, oh man, that's really a big, huge bummer. And then other retro YouTubers that I was watching were talking about the CRT TVs. And I was like, I should give that a shot. But it also made me look into using an upscaler, which that will be next week's video will be, do you need an upscaler if you're a retro gamer? And yeah, I won't get into that too much, but that led me down the path now of going, okay, what's a way I can play the game without having any input lag? And the obvious answer is using a CRT TV, because no matter what you use, it's gonna look great. And for my setup at that time, I was using S-Video for everything that I could, which was fantastic. Even the RGB modded NES could use S-Video. It looked great on a CRT. I found a local Sony Trinitron that was decent enough picture, that looked good, using everything with S-Video, with I had like an S-Video like switcher that you could like automatically switch, and for most people that would be the setup right there. You're not gonna have any input lag, it's gonna look great. And a lot of the consoles, and there's a big debate between this, because a lot of people say, oh, people want that composite look, which looks blurry. I'm on the other side of that. I want the picture to look sharp. I want to see the pixels. I don't really care about the blur. You know what I mean? Like I got a better cable, or I went to S-Video, and for a reason. I didn't want it to be all blurry. And for having a setup where you don't really need to pay a lot of money, I mean, that's the way to go right there. You can hook up all your consoles with either composite or S-Video, no modding required, you're good to go. But there are many benefits to CRT TVs. One, if you check your local marketplace, you can probably find one for little to no money and sometimes free. You've always heard the stories of people just driving by and people will leave a CRT TV on their front lawn with a sign that says free. I've seen people pick up free CRT TVs all the time. So they're pretty plentiful and they're out there. Especially if you check your local Facebook marketplace and things like that, you could find a little 13-inch CRT TV pretty much with no problem. And picking up that CRT TV, whether you buy it from somebody on the Facebook marketplace or pick it up for free, will ultimately end up being cheaper and overall than buying a really good upscaler. So there's pros and cons to both. The setup that I have downstairs in the game room, it actually goes to both. I have I have a SCART switch that goes, it actually has 3 outputs, but the 2 SCART outputs from the SCART switcher, one goes to the RGB modded CRT and the other one goes to the RetroTink 5X, the upscaler. So do you actually need a CRT TV for retro gaming? I would say, honestly, in my opinion, yes. I would say yes, just for the savings on cost, because a lot of consoles will do composite or S-Video right out the box. I mean, an NES won't. You'll have to mod that, but a lot of consoles will do S-Video, which is a very good picture overall. Some even claim it's the best picture, just outside, right out the box with no spending money or anything. And then if you want to get the better cables without using an upscaler, there are things like the Rad2X that you can use, or the HD Retrovision component cables that are out there, which also won't force you to actually have to use a upscaler, but they cost a lot of money. For example, the Super Nintendo HD Retrovision component cable costs around $100 by itself. So do you want to spend $100 a console getting those better component cables? And most modern TVs have component now, so you could just directly plug component right into your HD TV. And on the plus side, a CRT TV, a lot of the higher end CRT TVs have component on them as well, so you could go both ways by just using the component cable. But the price per console starts to kind of skyrocket once you start looking into the HD Retrovision cables. The same thing with the Rad2X, but they're way better than the generic Amazon Super Nintendo to HDMI converters. So if you are going to not use an upscaler or use something like that, there's ways to do it, but it's going to cost you so much more money. So that's why I'm saying I actually think you should be using a CRT TV, because it's going to be the lowest cost overall. And it's not too hard to, if you have a little 13-inch CRT, TV, it's not really hard to find a spot for that. You can set up a little nook, a little retro gaming nook, and boom, you're getting pretty much the best experience that you can get without spending a lot more money. I'll get way more in depth on the other options when we talk about the upscalers, because there is a budget-friendly upscaler that's out there, which does work great, but there are some caveats to it, as well as the RetroTink upscalers that are out there, which cost a lot more money, but you do get what you pay for. I almost forgot to mention, a lot of modern TVs actually have composite as an input, and people go, you may wonder, why don't we just use composite and just use it on the HD TV? Well, it still has the input lag issue, and it also, the picture quality is horrendous. For some reason, composite on an HD TV, it just looks horrible, and it's not a good experience. As where if you plug it into a CRT TV, composite actually looks halfway decent. So there's the big difference between that and a modern TV, which is why that option just doesn't work out well. So anyway, guys, what do you think in the comments down below? Do you think you need a CRT TV if you're a retro gamer? I think you do, because it'll cost you the least amount of money overall. Leave it down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.